My name is Ashley Vasallo. I am a 36-year-old woman. I live in Northern California. And 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer. I'm a mother of two young boys. Despite my diagnosis, I still remain very active. I do light weightlifting, bouldering, yoga, gardening, and really focusing on anything that brings me back to my body and being present in the moment. I was having trouble swallowing. And initially I thought it was because, I worked in healthcare. I was a hospice social worker. I was moving from one hospice to another. I had two young boys that were often out of their daycares. So I was under a lot of stress. So I just figured it was because of that. So 1 year prior to my diagnosis, I was up in Tahoe, and I noticed that I was really short of breath. And not only was I short of breath, but when I was lying on my back, it felt like just something was stabbing into where my lung was. And none of it was normal. I would exercise, and I had low exercise tolerance, and I was otherwise very physically active. I called one of the doctors in the family practice that I would go to. I had an urgent visit with her, a telehealth visit. And I actually told her, I think that there is a tumor growing in my lung or in my throat. And she said, well, why do you think this? You're a healthy person. And I said, I'm not quite sure. I just have a feeling. And I tend to minimize my symptoms. And I told her I'm a little more fatigued. I'm a little more short of breath. Other than that, I'm fine. In retrospect, I was not fine. I was so fatigued. I was eating less. I had all of the common lung cancer symptoms. She told me it's probably anxiety from working in healthcare and COVID, obviously. And she said, come in for blood work if you're this concerned. So we got through the holidays and my symptoms were progressing. So I went in over 20 times throughout the span of this year. I was misdiagnosed with asthma, with long COVID. I never had COVID. I was being tested twice every week with a chronic cough, with acid reflux, anxiety, pneumonia twice. And eventually they found blood clots when I went into the ER. So this was my second pneumonia diagnosis. I refused to believe that I actually had pneumonia. They told me the pneumonia mass grew. And I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but I'm otherwise so healthy. I don't think pneumonia grows if you give antibiotics. After I left urgent care, I went into the ER and I said, I'm not leaving. You guys need to figure out what's going on with me. Not only have I had this chronic cough and shortness of breath and pain in my chest, I was throwing up in the mornings, but I had full body edema. So I had, um, clubbed fingers. I had swelling in my ankles, my knees, every joint in my body. Everything hurt. And I said, I'm not leaving. This is so abnormal for an otherwise healthy 34-year-old. And that's when she found blood clots and I was admitted and finally given a CT scan. And that's when they found the cancer. I saw the whole gambit. I saw my nurse practitioner. I saw multiple doctors in the practice. I saw multiple specialists ears, nose, throat. I went to urgent care and saw doctors, ER and saw doctors. And the problem is there was no baseline for me because I was so healthy. Otherwise, they had nothing to go back on. So they didn't know what my weight was. And the thing that's so frustrating is there's so many biases in healthcare. So oftentimes they would say, well, you're not severely underweight or overweight. So because you don't have a high BMI or a low BMI, we think you're healthy. And I don't know how that's even correlated at all with lung cancer. So yeah, I saw so many, you name it, I saw them. And it was hard because I felt like no one was truly listening to me. I know that they're well-intentioned. But when they look at me and they are making stereotypes and judgments based on who walks in the door, they're thinking this is a healthy woman who probably has anxiety. I also was going through a separation. So they would ask what stressors are in your life. And I'm like, my whole life is a stressor right now. I moved out of, an 8-year marriage. I'm exploring my sexuality. I have decided that maybe I'm gay. And I have 2 kids. I'm a single mother now, like single income mom during COVID. Yeah, my life is stressful, but that doesn't mean you should discount all of these other symptoms. You can have a stressful life and have like actual acute symptoms that need to be taken care of. I have so much to say about self advocacy. I think it's hard because we, especially as women, and men too. I can't speak for men because I'm not a man, but are taught to really prioritize how everyone else around you feels. And unfortunately, I think doctors fall into that. So if you go in, for me personally, I can only speak for myself. When I went in to talk to my doctor, the nurse practitioner, and they said, everything is fine, don't worry about it, I was hesitant to push back on that because I didn't want to hurt their feelings or question their knowledge. And in retrospect, I didn't self advocate as much as I could have. And I learned. And, it's odd because I was a hospice social worker and I advocated for my patients fiercely with doctors. But for some reason, I didn't do it to myself, for myself. Um, and I learned the power of self advocacy. And it doesn't stop once you're diagnosed. You have to continue to self advocate and listen to your body, trust your body, and trust like your deep knowing and never let that go. And if that means, um, sorry, if that means questioning your doctors, asking for a second opinion, writing your symptoms down and going to another doctor, um, kindly telling your doctor you disagree with them, like that is okay because they're there to work for us. And we are the keeper of our own knowledge. Like we know our bodies best. And we have to remember that. They found a pulmonary embolism. So the blood clot had traveled up to my lung. I was immediately put on blood thinners and had my first CT scan. I was so nervous for this scan. I didn't know what the heck it was. They put this stuff in you that like warms your body and it's scary and daunting. And it's all kind of a blur, to be honest. I was at the hospital for maybe 2 weeks. I also had a lung biopsy and a PET scan, and that's when they confirmed the lung cancer. So initially they said, there's a mass in your lung. It could be a fungus or it could be a cancer, a lung cancer. I had a lot of feelings when I was diagnosed, some of which I wasn't expecting, like relief. To be honest, I was relieved that I was finally being listened to and believed. And I also had this immediate, like, can I swear on here? I had this immediate, it. No one is telling me how long I'm going to live, how I'm going to respond to treatment. This is my body. I know it best. And that like mentality, I think really allowed me to get through those first few months of treatment because I fully believed that I was going to have a good response to this treatment. Um, I also want to note on here that many young people that are diagnosed with lung cancer have what's are called biomarkers, and they're genetic mutations, and it allows them to have targeted treatment options. I don't have biomarkers, which is very odd. I was tested multiple times at 3 different health institutions because none of us believe that like I don't have a biomarker. So my treatment has been different than a lot of people that I have met with late stage lung cancer. I also want to note that everyone that I have met with lung cancer has no smoking history. And there is a smoking bias with lung cancer, and it harms all of us because we are misdiagnosed, we have delayed diagnoses, and, people like me are the new face of lung cancer. Otherwise healthy, young non smokers, women are the new face, and things need to change. I started with 4 rounds of chemo. I think my second round, I did 5 rounds of radiation to my spine. And I also was doing immunotherapy. Immunotherapy boosts someone's body's immune system to fight off the cancer naturally. So I was doing immunotherapy every 3 weeks. And after the chemo stopped, I continued to do the immunotherapy. About 6 months into treatment, it was unclear if there was any cancer left in my lung. There was a lot of consolidation. It was like foggy on scans. And that's when I decided I wanted to get my lung removed. I was told with my staging, this would not be an option for me. But I felt like if it's contained in my lung, if I was a stage 1 or 2, it would have been the first treatment option. So why can't it be a treatment option for me too? So I met with a research hospital. They agreed to do the lung removal. And then last minute, for some reason, the surgeon changed his mind and didn't fully communicate with his team or myself as to why. So I decided to get a second opinion. I went to the East Coast. They referred me to a surgeon here in the North Bay, and I had my lung removed. So that was a year ago. And after my lung removal, I had a lesion in my hip, a very small lesion, 5 rounds of radiation on that. And then recently, I had a response to the immunotherapy. So I started getting really sick. This was in like February, March of this year, and I had just moved. So I thought I was really fatigued from moving. But it got to the point where I couldn't get off my couch and I felt like I was dying. And it turns out I was in liver failure from the immunotherapy, which is a side effect, but usually it's a side effect the first few rounds, not like a year and a half in. So I had to stop the immunotherapy about 6 months ago. And at the same time, I was told I had a lesion in my chest cavity and again on my hip, all very small lesions. So again, I went to the East Coast for second opinions. And I wanted to talk about clinical trials, and I wanted to talk about what someone like me, like what the best treatment option would be for someone that does not have biomarkers. I have a rare fusion. What is the best treatment option for me? I'm so glad I did that. I decided to radiate. So I had 3 weeks of radiation recently, and my last scan came back clear. So I'm getting scanned every 3 months and hoping to have clear scans for a while. If you have a reaction to immunotherapy, it's way too risky to get back on it. And it was scary because that is really my only line of treatment. If I don't have biomarkers, I've gone through chemotherapy, the immunotherapy was working. Um, my other options are clinical trials or radiation, spot treating with radiation. It was very, very scary, especially because I had, a recurrence in my chest cavity and my hip. So I'm going to worst case scenarios here. I get off of immunotherapy, and within 1 month, it's going to be riddled. My whole body will be riddled with cancer. That's where my mind was going, which is why I went to the East Coast to get second opinions, talk about clinical trials, talk about any other treatment options that are available to me. Yeah, it was probably the scariest. It was scarier than actually being diagnosed with cancer for me because I had so much denial initially and I didn't fully understand even what a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis meant. But because I'm more resourced now, I'm connected in with different like lung cancer nonprofits. I'm doing advocacy work. I understand now what it means to not have biomarkers, to have a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis, to have a reaction to really your only line of treatment. And it was scary, and the fear is dissipating with time, but it's always there, kind of in the background. I had only had bone radiation to my bone, and this was the first time I had it to my chest cavity. Um, and the side effects were brutal. I was not prepared. And my oncologist asked me So, how did it go? And I immediately wanted to say, it was fine. I did fine. Just in case there's a recurrence and I have to go through it again. I don't want them to say, ooh, Ashley, you really couldn't handle it. But I was honest with them because I know if the time comes where there's a recurrence out in my body, but not bone, I'll be able to advocate and say, this is what I want, and you're giving it to me. And if you won't give me radiation, I will find another doctor that will give me radiation. Unless they have very strong evidence that it's not the best route for me. I value my doctor's opinion. I think I have one of the best doctors in the nation. That being said, I still know my body and I know what I want. So I think we work really well together. He lets me challenge him, and I challenge him with like respect and grace and dignity. And he responds, like that to me, if that makes sense. Um, Tips and tricks, I would say be honest with your care team. Trust that they're there to work for you. Trust that they'll be able to help you manage those symptoms. I recently found out about palliative care, which this is their whole job, is to help you manage the side effects of treatment and having cancer. So I would recommend asking for a referral to palliative care so you can have a little more support when you are experiencing side effects. And also trying to stay on top of things, especially like the nausea. That was really hard for me initially, is staying on top of it before it becomes so like chronic and debilitating. So like really listening to your body and slowing down and trusting that hopefully it's temporary. It's not a permanent thing. Something that actually has really helped me is naming it. So I realized recently that I go through like 4 stages. I'm either in survival mode, I'm in recovery from whatever I was going through, I am healing from whatever I was going through, or I'm focusing on growth in my future. And being able to name the stage that I'm in has been tremendously helpful for my mental health because it reminds me it's temporary. And it reminds me that I have like protocols for each stage. So if I'm having scanxiety and I have a scan coming up, it reminds me that this trauma is bringing me back into survival mode. And I can't really focus on healing and growth if I'm getting ready for a scan. So it allows me to like put that to the side and focus on the present. Like, am I nourishing my body? Am I drinking enough water? Am I getting enough sleep? And that's a full-time job, just dealing with that. Yeah, it's definitely a full-time job managing my mental health, and I can't speak for anyone else going what I'm going through. Definitely was in a lot of denial at the beginning, like I said, but once I was able to shift out of that and really look at my reality, I found a therapist, which I highly recommend. And I know it's a privilege to have a therapist in this economy, but I had health, insurance that allowed me to see him. That has been very important for my mental health and developing coping skills to manage the stress and the anxiety, because there's always like a radio on in the back of my head, and it's either like blasting loudly like a stereo system, or it's whispering. And it's sort of, all my ruminations and my fears and my anxieties and my concerns, and um, managing that is tough with a cancer diagnosis. So doing things that allow me to slow down and focus on the moment. Like I said at the beginning, gardening and yoga and meditating and journaling, and even eating healthy and getting outside and walking and like doing things to get back in your body so you're not worried about the future or the past. It's a full-time job. I tried going back to work. I got shingles and a cancer recurrence, and it helped me realize that I need to prioritize me at all times, and my children, of course. I prioritize me and my children, and then the world. And if I'm not able to um, really focus on my mental health and feel strong in my body, I can't show up for my kids. I can't show up for my hobbies. I can't show up for my friends and family. So yeah, it's almost as hard as treatment. Going through the physical side effects of treatment is managing the mind. And I think it also, does impact how we go through treatment. So staying positive has been really important to me and optimistic, because ultimately no one has a crystal ball and no one knows what my future is. So I have tried my hardest to stay optimistic and positive, and I think that that has helped these, more physical side effects of treatment. Cancer doesn't discriminate. And, I think a big problem is the media representation, especially with lung cancer. It's older people that have a smoking history, and we are the new face of lung cancer. Anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. You don't have to be a smoker. You don't have to be, quote, unhealthy. Cancer doesn't discriminate. And I think it's much more challenging, in my opinion, for people that are young because, like myself, maybe we're single income. We don't have a 401k. I don't own a house. Like, I don't have savings. I don't have, a retirement plan. I don't have a partner who's retired and can be my caregiver 24/7. So we have to get very creative with how we tend to ourselves and those around us in ways that I think people that are older may not have to. I'm stereotyping here, but I mean, that's what I've experienced personally. It also, I think, hits us differently because it's so unexpected. Especially we're told, oh, if you live healthy, if you eat healthy, if you move your body, you exercise, you take care of your mental health, you can live forever. And that's just not the case. And especially like body sizes. Oh, if you can lose weight, you're going to be healthy. And body size is not equated to health in any way, or your chances of getting a cancer diagnosis. So I do think that the dialogue around cancer and who can be diagnosed needs to change, especially when it comes to lung cancer, because there are so many environmental factors at play. I recently learned about radon. That's the number one cause of lung cancer for non-smokers, and the number two cause of lung cancer for smokers. So more, education and information needs to be put out there in the world about other causes of lung cancer than just smoking. Never stop believing in yourself. Never stop advocating for yourself and trusting your body and prioritizing you at all times, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels awkward, even if your voice is shaking, even if you're otherwise a quiet person. Always stand up for yourself because no one cares for you as much as you do.